Hello, my name is Bernie Levy. It's October 28th, 2009, and it is my pleasure to interview Shirley Kruchkow for the Jewish Historical Society Oral History Project in her home at 1132 Hope Street in the Springdale section of Stamford, Connecticut. Shirley is a native of Stamford, and we're going to hear her story now. Hi Shirley, how you doing?
Hi Bernie, Lester.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Lester is the cameraman.
Welcome to my home.
Thank you.
Very honored to be picked as one of the interviewees.
Well, why not? You are a stalwart at our programs, monitoring the sign-in sheets and the contribution bowl.
Oh, I've been a member for a long, long time.
Why don't we first start with some of your information about your parents, where they're from.
Yeah, I have that right down here. I can't
Well,
remember.
we need to, you don't remember?
Yeah.
We don't want to look at the paper or have the paper
No,
on the
no,
camera.
but I
We'd rather
just-
have you talk about it.
Okay. My mother was Mary Shulman, and she was born in Minsk, Russia, in 1892. My father was Norman Kruchkow, was Isidore Shulman, and he was born in Riga in 1892. No, my mother was born in 1898. My father was born in 1892. I had all this somewhere.
All right. And when did they come to the United States?
Oh, I
You
don't know what
know.
year. I don't know what year, but they were here for maybe 5 years, 6 years before they were married here.
Oh, they were married here.
They were
Okay.
married here.
Okay.
They met at a mutual cousin's home, and
Where did they come to and live in the United States?
they lived in Stamford.
Oh, immediately?
They came to Stamford, yes, and lived here.
Okay, very good.
I was born in Stamford.
Okay. What year, what was your birthday?
My birthday is June 17th, 1922. I'm 87 years old.
Very good. Okay, I see from the questionnaire you don't have any sisters or brothers, so I won't ask you anything more about that.
I'm an only child.
You married Norman. Where was he?
Norman came from Bridgeport when he was 7 years old. His mother and father were Workmen's Circle members in Bridgeport, and my parents were Workmen's Circle members here in Stamford, and that's how they met. They became very friendly with each other. Norman was an only child, and I was an only child, and at those days you didn't have babysitters when you went to visit, so they schlepped me and they schlepped Norman. So we grew up together. I've known him since I'm 4 years old.
Oh, great. So what are some of your early remembrances about Stamford and growing up?
Oh, my father never had a car. Well, he didn't have a car till he was 55 years old. So I remember just walking with him. We lived on Seaside Avenue for 28 years, 29 years. And I've only actually lived in 2 houses all my life. I've lived on Seaside Avenue at 234 Seaside. And we used to walk, go to what is now Cove Island, but it was just Cove Pond at that time. And we used to walk all from Seaside down to Weed Avenue and back again. And we used to walk to Pacific Street every Sunday morning to get whatever, you need some paper? Whatever was necessary, the Jewish newspapers, we used to get bread, we used to stop it in some of the stores on Pacific Street, which was a wonderful street for buying all kinds of delis and asherais, and walk home. Walking was a great part of my life, and I've done it all my life. I still walk. I walk constantly. I walk 5 miles a day now.
Yep. What schools did
I
you go to?
went to what was then Cove School. It's now Catherine Murphy School on Horton Street in the Cove. I was there through 6th grade, 7th grade, I guess, and then we went to Rogers Junior High, and then we went to Stanford High. In those days, there were no things like school buses, so we always walked. And I was brought up in a kosher home, so I had to bring my lunch with me. I had to bring a violin with me, which I played, and my school book. So it was a long schlep from Seaside Avenue to the high school, down the Cove Road Hill. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. And back every day, rain or shine, snow and ice. No such thing as buses at that time.
Okay. What were some of your hobbies or activities in school?
Well, I played the violin. I studied dance, I studied violin, and I became very good at the violin. And when I was in high school, I was the concert mistress of the high school orchestra. And when I went to college, which was at Danbury Teachers College, I played in the Danbury Symphony for a while. I took part in practically every play that there was, and I took the lead, I know, in all the Christmas plays. I was the only Jewish person in the whole school. But it was a very, it was an area made up of many Czechoslovakian people, Polish people. They were all people who had come into the area and got along very, very well. Nowadays, people, mothers and fathers walk their kids to school. We used to walk by ourselves. There was nothing to be afraid of at that time.
Okay, so okay, you went to Danbury Teachers College. Where did you start your career as a teacher?
Yes, I did. I taught in Rogers School for a while, and then I taught right across the street at Springdale School. But one thing I just realized as I was growing up, most of the children when I was a child were boys in the neighborhood. And we had a big empty lot across the street from our house, and that's where we played most of the time. And I didn't play with dolls too much. I played with all the fellas. We played kick the can and ringalivio and football and, you know, all these active games. Mm-hmm. There were 2 other girls I was friendly with, but we didn't do too much in the feminine form of playing. You know, we didn't play with dolls and have tea parties like that. I grew up a tomboy.
Okay.
Was there anti-Semitism in the school
No,
or in the
not
Cove?
at all. I have never, ever felt anti-Semitism toward me. We were the only Jewish family in the whole area, and nobody ever bothered us. We got along famously with all our neighbors. Everybody respected us. We respected their religions.
I guess on the same line of your work and your career, what else did you do besides teaching?
Well, I taught for 7 years, and I didn't really like it too much, so I decided one day, I saw an ad in the paper for somebody needed at Bob's Sports Shop on Bedford Street, which was a very fine mom-and-pop sporting goods store at that time. And I went down and applied to Bob Malazzi, who owned the store, and I told him what I had been doing. And he said, well, you're interested in something like this? We need someone in the office, not to sell. And I had never done that, but I was sure I could do it. He said, try it out for 2 weeks. And I did. and I stayed 30 years. It was wonderful. The store closed 25 years ago in Stamford. They do have one in New Canaan. And I still meet people every once in a while who say, oh, I remember you from Bob's Sports. I get this at least once a month, at least. It's just amazing how people can remember that.
Right, yep. Sounds good. And after that was over, what did you do?
Then I
And what have you done since?
What have I done? Well, I married Norman in July 4th, 1943. That was 6 weeks or 7 weeks after I graduated from college. We got married. And he was a civil engineer working for the Army as a civilian, and he was not supposed to get drafted. But suddenly, about 3 months into our marriage, he got drafted. So I went home. We had a small apartment in 70 Strawberry Hill. It was the Hampshire house, I think, just for 3 months, and I don't even consider that a place where I lived too much. I went home and I lived with my mother, and I taught school at that time. And I was also, at that time, a counselor at Camp JC. And incidentally, I had Lester's wife as one of my campers at that time. Elaine was one of my campers, and all these young kids who are now grown up. I remember very, very well. The camp met in back of the old Jewish Center on Strawberry Hill, which is now the yeshiva, I guess, or I don't know what it's called. And I did that for 3 years, and then Norman was overseas. Norman went overseas, and before he did that, I went down to visit him once at Camp Butner in North Carolina, and found that I had become pregnant. So I had a baby, and he hadn't seen the child for 2 or 3 years, I guess, before he came home. Alan was born. My son was born in November of 1944, and I guess he was a couple years old when Norman came home. Norman worked as a architect engineer. He was basically a civil engineer, but he worked for architectural firms and became very good with architecture. And I'm not going into his program, but he did a lot of wonderful work. Basically, one of the big things was this Cape Canaveral project.
Oh, yeah.
He worked down on that. But when I had a daughter, Diane. She was born 2.5 years after Alan. She was born June 10th, 1947. Her name is Diane Linda. She now lives in Maine. And she has one daughter, Hannah, who is now teaching in Denver. Incidentally, Denver just got 10 inches of snow today. Alan went to a school called Paul Smith's up near Saranac Lake. He wanted to go into forestry. He was very active in Boy Scouting, and that got him into the forestry movement. And he went to Paul Smith's for 2 years, and then continued on at West Virginia University for 3 more years and got his degree in forestry, and then went on to Pace and got his master's in business. So he worked in the business end of buying and selling lumber. He was a lumber broker. Diane went to the University of New Hampshire, and she was an English major, and she actually taught a class there after graduation. And she became a publisher and a writer and a poet, and so she taught small press writing to a group of young college kids. It was very good, and she loved it up there, and she just remained up there constantly. She's still there. When we paid her last tuition for New Hampshire, Norman and I decided to take a trip to Europe. And that was our 25th anniversary. And we did a 5-nation trip, which was just a survey of, certain places to go. And every year after that, for 34 more years, we went overseas. We've been to many, many countries more than once. We've been to 40 countries. We've been on 6 continents. Some of these Tsatskis are from the different countries. We have many, many memories. I have a whole series of albums, one from each country that I went to. I still take them out once in a while and look at them.
Very good. I know you go to Aruba regularly.
Oh, then not finally, but at one time we bought a timeshare we went to Aruba on a vacation. We didn't have a timeshare then. We went it was very enjoyable. It was during the winter. We got away from the snow and ice. And after 6 years of going there, we decided, Shane Sykes, to buy a timeshare. So we looked around and we bought one at the Aruba Beach Club. That was 28 years ago. And we still have it. I still go down every February for the end of February, the first week of March for 2 weeks. People don't join RCI down there. They just come back to Aruba.
Yeah.
Most of them.
I know the feeling, as you know.
I realize that. And the last 2 years, my daughter has come down for the first time ever. She's a skier, and she teaches skiing, and she never wanted to come down and, get away from the ski areas. But she's been there for the last 2 years, and she's coming down again with me this year. I don't know how much
Another
longer.
similarity of mine, but we'll do that offline.
Oh.
Let me go back to your, some other things relative to your youth, say.
Oh.
Did you have aunts and uncles in the area?
No, nobody's in the area.
Okay.
My mother had 6 sisters and 2 brothers, but everybody lived out of state. Most of them in New York, Denver, and California. And my father, I never knew any of his brothers and sisters. He had a big family, but they were all in Russia, and they were all killed or died. So there's no family there.
And,
Why did they come to Stanford? Oh,
I really don't know. The cousins he came to originally lived in Greenwich. I don't know why they came to Stanford, to tell you the truth.
what is his occupation?
My father was a tailor. He worked for United Coal Company, which is Gail Gruber's grandfather.
Oh, really?
And then her father took over. My father was a very good tailor. In my youth, I never had any bought outer clothing. My father made all my clothes, my coats, my suits. My mother made all my dresses. She worked as a seamstress in some factory for a while. It wasn't until after I got married that I bought my first suit, and then I had to take it to him, to my father, and had to get his approval on it. The buttonholes had to be handmade. The plaids had to match. I mean, if he said it was okay, I kept it. I would keep it, and it was. That was my first suit, and that was quite a transition because he made coats and things for my kids too when they were small. He died when he was 88, and he and my mother both died at the home in Fairfield. They were there for a while. My mother died when she was 80, and I've been here ever since.
Was that a year-round occupation for Gruber's coat
Oh
factory?
yes, oh yeah. A lot of times there was no work at certain times, and but he was a wonderful, wonderful tailor.
What other things do you remember from the way Stanford was or the surrounding area?
Stanford was a wonderful place to go downtown many, many years ago. We would walk into town, and no matter where you go, you'd always meet somebody you knew. People just flocked to town. It was a melting pot. It was wonderful. It was a pleasure to be there. Now I never get into town. I rarely get into town. I'll go to the mall once in a great while, and that's about it. It was.
How far do you walk? I mean, you walk from the house?
I walk now. I have different routes, but I basically walk 3 miles in the morning, every morning, and 2 miles after dinner or just before dinner. So I walk 5 miles a day, and then at 5:30 in the morning, I go swimming. I swim at the Jewish Center every day. There are quite a few people who swim at that time. Most of them go to work afterwards, but there are some who don't. And it's a wonderful wake-me-upper. And I have a bad back, so it helps my back considerably. And I love it.
When you talk about the downtown, do you remember any of the merchants in particular?
Oh gosh,
Or what it was like?
Oh yeah.
Atlantic Street or
Even
Pacific Street?
not only Pacific Street,
Main
but
Street?
Atlantic Street was entirely different too. Bank Street. Oh yeah, I remember your store, Lester, Rovin's Curtain Shop. I remember Gold's on Bank Street. They had a store there. There was many Jewish stores there, owned by Jewish people. There were banks. The First National Store, I think it was called, was a big store. C.L. Miller's was a huge department store. Everything used to be very homey. And now it's just, I'm afraid to go into town nowadays. I never get there. I really haven't. My husband, Norman, used to be very active at the Whitney Museum, which was downtown in Stanford. And we used to go there all the time. He was a docent there for 18 years. So when we were at the Whitney, once in a while we walked, into town for this or for that. But that was about the only reason I used to go. And then the Whitney closed, and the mall came in, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well, I worked on Bedford Street, as I said, for 30 years with Bob Sports.
What were the other stores on Bedford Street?
Oh, that was like the Fifth Avenue of Stanford. There was Best and Company, there was the French shop, there was Donna Henry's, Footform shoe store owned by the Calmer family. There was a student shop owned by Lauren Jaffe. Abe Josephson owned a...
Bedford Teen
it's
Shop.
the Bedford shop, I think.
Bedford Teen.
Bedford Teen, that was it, yeah. Ethel Allen was owned by the Netburns. They were right next to Bob's. Frank Cowan had a bookstore, I think. No.
Cowan sold dishes.
Cowan's, what are they?
I think he sold dishes.
Is it dishes? I can't remember what he had, but they were right next to Bob's on the other side. There was Serpy's, the tailor,
Abe Sherbakow.
John Zemo, clother, and across the street was Chino's restaurant, which everybody went to. Bedford Street was a beautiful street. It has since deteriorated considerably.
And what about all your volunteer activities? You have
Oh,
a
my
long list
gosh.
here.
Well, when I retired from Bob Sports, Norman had already been retired for 3 years, and we had gotten into being very interested in going to the Jewish Center. We always went for this or for that. And talked to Judy Landau, who was the senior advisor at that time, and she said that she needed some help in working for the lunch program for the seniors. Could we help out? And so Norman and I did that right away, and we also started at that point a group called the Leisure Pursuit. It's like Norman and I would get speakers to come and talk about different subjects at different times, you know, just to get people interested in coming to the center and discussing different things. That lasted for quite a while. It was very interesting. We had people on music, people on art, people on dance, you know, whatever people wanted to speak about, we would find someone to discuss it with them. It was good. But the program for the senior lunch just is something I still do. It's 25 years I've been doing this. It was for twice a week for many years, and then it went into 3 times a week. On Fridays, I used to be the girl at the control desk there. Norman was at the control desk. We had numerous different projects at the center that we volunteered in. And other volunteers, volunteering jobs, I worked with the Liberation Program, which is a drug rehab program in Stanford. I worked not with the clients, but with the people who manage the program. I worked for the office staff, and I worked with them for 8 years. I did that here in Stanford for 6 years, and then they moved to Norwalk, so I used to go there once a week, and then I stopped doing that. I've been volunteering at the library right across the street from here for at least 10 years. We use the library constantly, and I felt that it was no more than right to help out with it. It's a great place. I don't know if you've ever been into the Springdale Library.
Oh, yes.
They have a big reading room with a fireplace and easy chairs, and the newspapers are there. They have computers there, you know, plus all the books.
They had that before the renovation?
Oh yes, they didn't have the fireplace before the renovation, but that was all done afterwards. In fact, when my son was a little kid, he 16 or so, he worked at the library too. We're big library people.
Okay, good.
What other? I have some notes here. Can't remember what else I've been doing. I do so much.
Let me see if there's anything else you wrote here. I think you covered pretty much. Of course, you've been active in the Jewish Historical Society.
Oh, yes. I think the first job I had there was membership chairman. Then I was membership chairman for a long time under Fred Gollop. And then I did the hospitality. I remember doing that for several years. I was secretary for 10 years. I can't remember. Then I got myself, I don't know how that happened, sat at the desk and greeted the people as they come in on Sundays. And I still do that, take their names down. It's just nice to have somebody say hello when you walk in instead of walking into a room blankly like that. I enjoy it very, very much.
Can you think of any other topics to cover?
Pardon me?
Can you think of any other topics you want to speak on?
Offhand, I'm still living in my house by myself. I prefer it to a condo or to an apartment. If I had to go somewhere, I wouldn't know where to go at this moment. My daughter's up in Maine. She's got 70 acres of forest up there, and it's cold. I don't want to go up there. My son lives in North Salem. He has 2.5 acres, and that's not too far away, but I wouldn't want to live up there. So far, I'm here and enjoying it. I have a lovely yard. I take care of it myself. I take care of the house by myself. I don't have any help. I have a garden in the summertime. I grow vegetables. But this summer, I also had a visitor. I had a woodchuck, and he helped himself to my lettuce, to my cucumbers, and he ate all my zinnias up that were, not my zinnias, my marigolds up that were planted in the ground. So I don't know what I'll do next year. I have delicious rhubarb all the time. I have beautiful tomatoes. In fact, I just showed Lester some of the tomatoes I picked before it got too cold, and they're turning red little by little. I haven't bought tomatoes yet. The yard is lovely. I have a huge, huge tree back there that just covers the yard. It's a sycamore tree. It's about 100 feet tall and 100 feet wide, and it just covers the yard beautifully. I have a hammock out there, table and chairs, and it's a delight in this hot summer sun.
Good, yeah, good location.
In reflecting back, was there any teachers when you were going to school that had left a deep impression on you, either positively or negatively?
Well, I remember in Stanford High, there were two English teachers that were very strict and everybody dreaded them. Miss Favreau and Miss Billingsley. I don't know if you ever heard those
I
names.
had them both.
Did you hear those names?
I had them both.
Oh, you had them both. Bill White I had for Latin. I really didn't learn too much Latin from him. I learned all about his life in college instead. I was a very good student. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the French classes and the math classes. Other teachers. I remember one in Rogers, Zilla Lord. She was a music teacher. She made a big impression on me. And I played the violin a lot, and I was very good at it at one time. In fact, I put it away for many, many years, and then when my granddaughter started to play the violin and was old enough to understand what it was all about, she brought her violin down here when she came to visit with me, and I had my violin fixed up, and we would play duets together.
Oh, great.
And then she liked the violin very much, and she had one made for her. She doesn't play it anymore, but she has no time. But she was very good. She had an odd thing. When she graduated from she went to Wesleyan. My granddaughter, her name is Hannah Gay. When she graduated from Wesleyan, she got into the Teach for America program. And this is a group that gets young college graduates and puts them into different depressed areas for teaching the kids. Then they all become teachers. They have 6 weeks of intensive study right after college and wherever they're going, and they teach. And they're supposed to be wonderful, wonderful teachers. My granddaughter went to Houston, Texas the day after she graduated from college. Didn't even get to go home. She had to drive out to Houston for her 6 weeks of intensive training and taught at an Indian reservation in Crown Point, New Mexico. She was there for 2 years and absolutely loved it. We went to visit, Diane and I went to visit her, and she lived on a mesa which was like 6,000 feet high, and you walk out of her door and you look around and you can see 5 states. I mean, there's nothing there. You do that for 2 years, and then she decided she was going to stay in teaching for a while, and she got a job in Denver, and this is her 2nd year of teaching in Denver at a charter school, but she's going to be leaving at the end of this year and going to a grad school. She wants to do something with education as a grad student. And then my grandson went to State University of New York in Oneonta, New York. His name was Dan. And he got out of school and got a job somehow or other with Elton John in the music field. So he worked with, I don't know what he did, but they did a lot of recording. He worked for Universal Records with Elton John for 5 years, and he hasn't been with him for a while, but he still hears from Elton John all the time. His name is on some of the jackets of the books, of the DVDs, or the CDs, I guess. He is now still in the music recording business, but he works for us. He got out of the corporate world, and he's now working for a small company. He worked for Island Def Jam for years, and he's happy
Right.
doing what he's doing.
Great, great interview. We really thank you. I think after we stop this part of it, we might want to photo some of your tchotchkes or other photos. I don't know if that thing in the swimsuit over there is you or.
Oh, that's me in Aruba.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if we want to.
Well, we
some of the
wanna-
photos.
That was Norman's favorite picture, incidentally. That
The
was-
reflections of what in your lifetime you've seen such dramatic changes in Stanford, and
Oh,
what you're feeling about.
I don't know if I like going down. I know I don't like going downtown anymore. Stanford is not the same. It's not the warmth. It hasn't got any warmth anymore. There used to be a town and a city in Stanford. This used to be the town. I remember when I was in high school, we had four students who came from Springdale in my whole class, and they used to be the Sticks, the kids from the Sticks. And right now, this is the center of Stanford, I think. It's just expanded so much. Stanford goes all the way up into near the New York border, and this is like the center of Stanford now. When we moved here, there were trolley tracks on the road. It was a dirt road. The school was here. All the buildings were different. I think this is the only private home still left on the street in this area. Every other house has been made into condos and three-family houses. This is the only private single family here. There was one thing I should have said. When I was in high school, I was very friendly with a group of girls. We were about 10 girls, all Jewish, and we called ourselves the Delta Beta Girls. We would meet at each other's homes and just discuss things, just do things that young high school kids would do, get together. We were all very, very friendly with each other. There was Bernice Lang, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, sure.
Bernice Lang. Most of the other girls have left the area. I think Bernice is the only one who's left. It was Betty Faust at that time. She's Betty Feldman now, who lives in Bethel. Ruth Feldman, who lived in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Shirley Schacht. Ethel Lang. Bernice and Ethel married Lang twins.
Mm-hmm.
Ethel Lang was one of the girls. Can't think. Flora Wagner, Rose Anger. The Angers had a big deli on Pacific Street.
Mm-hmm.
It was very homey walking downtown going into Pacific Street. Now if you go downtown, there's no place you feel at home. I don't know. Stanford has changed considerably. It's gotten too big, I think. For me, anyway.
I think most of the natives have that same feeling.
Yeah, it's...
When you look at Trump Tower, it just looks
Yeah, I mean,
so out of
anything
place.
downtown, all these big buildings, that's not Stanford. That's New York.
Well, then there's the word progress.
Oh,
But
I
anyway,
know.
Okay, is there anything else? Guess we can wrap up the video part of things and
I'm just trying to think what
we
else.
thank you for, well,
No, is there anything else that's in the book?
It's nice getting together with people from Stanford. We go to a lot of these different meetings at different places, and every once in a while you come across 3 or 4 Stanford natives. You feel it, oh my gosh, people are still around, you're not the only one.
all right, well look, Shirley, we had a great time interviewing you. We appreciate
Oh, I
doing
loved
it.
it.
We enjoyed everything you said.
Thank you. If you want to take pictures of any of these things, by all means.
Okay.
That's Giverny, France. That's at Monet's home. That's his famous bridge. Norman would paint wherever he went. He was very interested in watercolors. Oh, this is a picture that Norman painted of himself. It's actually a caricature of himself. He was fooling around one day.
And what about these items on the mantle?
Different places in Europe. Comes from Spain, Russia. This is Southwest. This is Alaska. This is from Russia. This is from France. It's a little mustard jar. This is from Turkey.
What about this painting above it?
Pardon me?
This painting?
This is a picture of my cactus in bloom. Somebody gave me some cactus. It's spread and it blooms every June. It's absolutely beautiful. Great big yellow blossoms. And he painted that. That's a Jewish monument hidden in Russia somewhere. And we found it quite by accident. We had read about it and we went looking for it. And there were two women there. And Norman took a picture of it and painted that when we got home. Telling about Norman and I volunteering at the Liberation Program. We did that for quite a while. He volunteered there for many years too. This was given to me by the POSH program in December of 2005. They honored me for my they call it the body, for my physical fitness. Okay? This picture of me was taken in Aruba as the boat went by. It's on the beach at the hotel. That was taken in 2002. When you're ready. These are four cutouts that we bought in China for $2. We came back, we didn't know what to do with them, so we had them framed. And we wanted a frame on either side, so you could see it from either side, but they couldn't do it. The framing cost $150. The pictures cost $2. But I thought it was beautiful. I've seen it. These are different album from every trip we've taken. I always came home, put the pictures right in an album, otherwise I forget what they were. I've been in about 40, and these are all from Europe. Satska's from Europe. This is my family here.
And you can tell us what we got here.
There aren't too many different people there because we're a very small family.
This is a family photo?
Yeah, that's at the POSH program. Different. This is Diane with George Stephanopoulos. She met him in Manchester, New Hampshire during the election. And they had breakfast together. And Tim Russert was with them. And this was they were campaigning for Obama, and Diane happened to be. These are paintings that Norman has done, and these are framed. These have all been in different. Oh, that one's upside down. Don't touch that. These have been in exhibits all around. He sold a few things, but he never wanted to sell anything. He just liked to have it.